Hi guys, welcome to For Those Who Code. In this video, we'll be learning about Mirage. We'll go through the topics: what is Mirage, why it is helpful for developers like us, how can we use it inside our application. So we will also build a demo application with Mirage and Vue.js. So let's get started. So here is the official Mirage website. Before understanding it, I would like to have a short background history. In early days of full stack web development, everything is subject to change: the database structure, schema, modules, and many more. When the APIs are still in progress, we front-end developers are blocked by the incomplete backend APIs. We can also handle those scenarios with hard-coded data, but for our project, but that's not the case right now. At that point, Mirage JS comes into play. Well, Mirage JS is a client-side server that embeds itself into the app. It handles all the API endpoint calls without the need for a real backend server. API mocking can be defined as a stimulation of the real API. We can think of it as a mimicking what the actual API would do. Here in the website, we can see that builds complete front-end features even if your API doesn't exist. So here in this video, we'll build our mock API using MirageJS with Vue in the front end. I have made some of my design screens in Figma. Let's quickly take a look. So what we'll be building is some kind of podcast application, which is rather simple for now. And we have just a list of podcasts right here in our home screen. And we just have a dummy image here. And here we have the category of the podcast: design, programming, and a heading of podcast like design better podcast, software engineering radio, and others. And we also have some data about the podcast person, the host of the podcast. And also we have a follow button for each of the cards. And after clicking on the follow button, they would see a pop-up where the users can confirm the podcast or just close it. So here we'll build this simple application with MirageJS. So we'll fake our um, we'll mock our GET request with Mirage and pull in all the data that we need with these cards. And later we'll also hit a post request for our confirmation as well. So without any delay, let's get into code. So I have already coded some stuff. So let's see what's the progress right now. So I have already scaffolded my Bootstrap project with Bootstrap Create application from the CLI. Right here, what we have here is inside our views, we have mainly two routes. One is for home, one is about. So right here, you can see in about we have just dummy text right now, and inside home we have already made some cards, which is similar to the design files that we saw in the Figma file. So here inside our app, we had two routes, and going into the router, it's nothing but just about and home there. And I have made a main component. So inside here, what I have done is I have imported a data source, a static data source, in a sense like it's hard-coded data right here. So it's just three objects for now, and it has category, heading, and host right now, but we will obviously add image for it as well. So I have imported this particular data that we have, and which I have imported is inside our main.view. So inside here I have imported podcasters, and in the data I have just returned podcasters. So the same data I have just looped with v4 directive and uh, and just printed out in the screen. So that's the current progress of the code right now. So we'll go ahead and implement MirageJS with this existing code, and we will add some server files over here, which will kind of act like some mocking API. And yeah, so let's code it. So now let's take a look at how can we use Mirage in our application. So right here inside our quick starts, um, just go back, get started, and then go to installation, and we can see yarn add MirageJS. So we will type it inside our CLI, and meanwhile we will also create a new folder and name it Mirage data. And inside here, let's also create a folder, a file, and name it server.js. So inside our server.js, let's first import the podcaster data that we created. So right now, as you can see here, we are just looking through the files. The source data is the file, this particular file. So we'll get that particular file and we'll use Mirage to mock our data. So first of all, let's import podcasters from now we will create a function, a function that that returns a server ultimately. So we'll write export, and we will give that function a name and make it server. And then inside here we can also declare a variable that we want for this function to run. So we want just this function to execute if we have the environment that is only in development mode. So the environment would be development, and so inside here we will now create a server variable where we will add new server and the server gets imported from MirageJS, which is great. So inside here we can pass down the environment that we wrote, and also we can declare our routes we need as well. So inside the routes we can write some namespace that we will write, and the namespace is the URL that begins with. So I want /API to begin our URL namespace. So this dot, and it's somewhat like writing some Express application. So route and dot get, and then we can write podcasters and schema, add a callback and schema, and inside here we can return the new response with some time delay of let's say 2 seconds, which is 2000 millisecond, and and also podcasters. All right, so I think we are quite okay for now. So let's save this one, and inside our main dot view, not main.js, inside our main.view, let's also import this particular file that we exported, make server. What we can do here is we can just remove this one for now, and then before diving into this one, let us first add this into our main.js as well, because it would need to import globally. So I'll add it here for now. Make server from Mirage data and server. So, and we'll also check whether it's in development mode or not. So process.env dot node and if it's a development environment, we would execute this particular function that we made and which exported from our server.js file. So everything looks fine, there are no errors, but we do see an error here. Reference error in data. Okay, we'll fix that out anyway. So inside our main.view, what we can do here is we deleted our import here, so we won't be having any data inside our application, so no podcaster. So inside here, what we can do here is we can create a lifecycle. We can invoke a lifecycle call and name it created, and right here in the bottom we can create it, and then we can also use the fetch or an XGOS library, whatever you want, but podcasters, and then then which will be a callback function, and then response.json. So inside here, let's declare a variable and name it result. Sorry for the dogs. Result, and then JSON, and parse that, and response dot. So actually we have something called body int inside here. So we want to get into that source. So did this dot. Actually, I don't know why do we need this, but actually just taking the response didn't work for me. So if you have some ideas regarding that one, I would happy to like hear from you. Podcasters is equal to results. So we haven't declared any data up here. So let's create an empty array, and data should return a function. And podcasters, and then let's go ahead and add some images inside our files as well. So for the images, I will right here copy some link that we have. We will just place placeholder for now. So now we have the data right here in the response. So actually, before it was the data wasn't taking. I mean, the podcaster was just null in a sense, and now it's working fine. Now let's add some on-click handler. So inside here, inside follow, when we click on the follow button, we'll like get this particular name of the podcast, and we will show them in the pop-up message as well. So So for that one, I'll create an on-click handler to follow. So right here in the follow, the button right here, we can declare a new function and name it new follower and pass down the podcasters because we want to know what podcaster that the user clicked. So we added parameter as a podcaster. So down here we can create a method. So create a method. So inside our method, we will create a function, and the function that returns the new podcaster. So new follower podcasters is equal to uh, this dot followed podcast, and then podcasters here. Follow podcast, and we will also follow podcast, declare empty object for that, and it should be methods, not method, and there should be, no, it should be like this one. So I think for the new followers we are somewhat okay to go ahead. So now let's also add another function for our it needs to trigger the model as well. So followers follow data target example model, and then data target example model. So I think this should work. Yeah, it works now because I just added some scripts necessary for the bootstrap models right here. I also need jQuery and popper.js as well. So I've added it, and now if you click on follow, and now let's add another function inside confirm, so that we can do our post request to make the confirmation of the follow, right? So inside our model, so we have a button called confirm, right? So inside here now, what we can do here is we can add a on-click handler to this particular and call it follow or follower. And then let's also define or write this function inside our here, and the add follower would invoke the post request, right? So we haven't written, wrote the post request here. So let's go ahead and add inside our route. So this dot post, and the post would be slash broadcasters. This should be inside. And the request, and let's first define the variable and call it header. And inside here we can have an empty object for now, and then another variable and name it podcasters, which should be parsed. So JSON dot parse, and we should parse the request. So request dot request body, and then let's also return a new response with the status code 200 along with the headers. And inside here we can add some message and some template literals. You follow, and we can give some dynamic add some dynamic value, which is podcasters dot heading of the request. So if you're really used to Node and Node environment and coding in a Node, so this will make sense like a request and response object. So add some message like podcast, and then thanks. All right, I think we're fine for now. And then let's also add some timing for this. So I will also add some timing before that. Okay, so I added a timing of 1 second for now. It's 1000 millisecond, so it can be 1 second. Now let's move to main, and inside our main we added debugger right here for now. So we can also use fetch, or you can pull in XGOs if you want. So API slash podcasters, and then comma, and then this dot follow podcast, add podcaster. I think we should rather define the method first. Method of HTTP request is post, and then body should be stringified, and which takes this dot followed podcast as a parameter, and then we can write then with response and response dot JSON, and then again we can add a callback to this one, and then data, and then inside data we can trigger. By the way, I have already imported jQuery for this one, so we would select the particular element, which is the example model right here, this model. So it's the same model that comes up after clicking on the follow. So we will grab on that model, and then we can write down example.model.model we can hide it. And then also let's put an alert for now, and then data dot message. Yeah, I think we are okay for now. So let's expand a little bit, and then let's refresh this one and click on the follow, and then we can see there's already the get request is successful, and click on the confirm. So after clicking on the confirm, it executes this particular alert, which has the data.message, and this particular message is from server file right here, and we just returned some message you follow and the dynamic uh, value over here, and for your podcast, and thanks. And it's the same message that we returned here. So it's you follow design better podcast for your podcast, thanks. So let's click on OK. So yeah, I think we're pretty much fine what we're doing now. So yeah, we have successfully mocked our API endpoints. So I think you got some initial ideas on creating your application with data from Mirage JS, and mock your data as well with the help of Mirage. You can just go ahead, and it's a lot of time saver for us. So yeah, ultimately, thank you so much for watching my videos. If you want to learn more about code design and anything more, please like, share, and subscribe with a click down below. So I'll be trying to make more better videos like this. So please find the link of the GitHub and below description as well, and the other references that I have taken during the video creation. So thank you so much. See you in the next one.